Hey there, I'm Grace.
And I'm Amelia.
And welcome to the Women Invest in Real Estate podcast, where we talk about getting started in real estate, scaling, and we give you the inside scoop about our day-to-days as full-time investors.
Interested in learning how to double your cash flow without the headache of turning your property into a hospitality-based short-term rental? Introducing Midterm Rentals. Register for our self-guided Midterm Rental Profit Academy course, where we walk you through step-by-step how to identify, analyze, furnish, market, and self-manage a midterm rental. Sign up at womeninvestinrealestate.com/MTR Profit Academy and use code PODCAST for $50 off today. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 12 of the Women Invest in Real Estate podcast. Today is another behind the scenes episode. So Grace and I are going to talk a little bit about what we have going on in our day-to-day as full-time real estate investors. So Grace, do you have anything exciting that you would like to share?
I do, but you told me that you have a good story, and I really, really want to hear yours first.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't tell me. You made us wait till this podcast, so let's hear it.
I know. I've been burning up to tell you. There's trouble in paradise with my midterm rental tenant. So I got a call the other day from MediaCom that said that they were suspending my service at my midterm rental property because of illegal.
Which MediaCom's your Wi-Fi?
MediaCom's my internet provider, in case you're not from the Midwest. And so, I was like, well, what is going on? Why? And he said there's been illegal video downloading on. And so I asked which router, because I have multiple routers. However, a few of my units share certain routers. So I had to determine, okay, well, when did the illegal video sharing happen? And then I was able to figure out which tenant it was from there. The day after the tenant moved in is actually when it began happening, which was back in June. And it's so crazy that MediaCom, like internet service providers, can track that activity, which is like, well, no shit. Like, of course they can track that.
So they gave you a heads up. They didn't just shut it down. They said, we're going to shut it down.
No, it was suspended. That's a whole another story. And you know how utility companies are. They're just a pain to work with. So they said that they had called me previously and I had said that the problem was taken care of. I'm like, okay, well, do you have that recorded? That was a whole thing. And they never produced the recording.
Side note, I think I've hired an internal PM solely so I don't ever have to talk to utility companies again.
I know. It's seriously the bane of my existence. They're way worse than maintenance calls or anything else you're ever going to have to deal with. So, I was able to pinpoint who it was. They even go so far as to, like, they told me what videos they were. There was
That's crazy. They're like
the Dropout, Prey, the new Predator video. Like, I can't remember what the other one was, but anyways, insane. I was fuming. I'm a redhead. I've got a temper, and baby, I was fuming. So because they said if it continues to happen, they'll cancel all of my accounts. And I have a lot of accounts with them because I have a lot. Like,
how many routers do you have at the 11 unit?
I have 3 routers there, another router at a different property, plus my personal account is MediaCom.
Yeah. Okay.
At my house. And so I got off the phone. I said, okay, well, call me back in a couple hours or whatever. I'm going to get this taken care of. I'm going to get a hold of the tenant. And so as soon as we hung up.
When you say you're fuming, are you fuming at the utility company, your tenant, or both?
The tenant.
Okay.
The utility company didn't do anything wrong. I mean, really, other than saying like they'd already talked to me, but I was fuming at the tenant. So I got off the phone and immediately called the tenant. Now, normally I want to handle all of my tenant phone call. All of my tenant communication should be handled through written communication, but I needed an immediate response. So I called him. I said, I basically said, I know what's been going on. I've been made aware that my internet has been suspended, and he knew right away. I said, you have to remove those programs from your computer immediately, or I will be taking legal action against you. He was really apologetic. And after I hung up, I sent an email and a text confirming what we had talked about and that he was going to remove those. Because if you're going to have a phone call, always follow up with written communication. So they called back, it got unsuspended. Then it went into suspend a few days later for some unknown reason. They said apparently they didn't have notes on why it was suspended again, which again, utility companies.
Right.
So I called again and got it unsuspended. And I'm finding all this out that it got suspended again because, like I said at the beginning, this router is shared between 2 units. So the person in the other unit was like, hey, the internet's down again.
I was going to say, were all your tenants like, hey, the internet?
No, because it was only the one router that had gotten suspended. So I called again, got it unsuspended, and was like, okay, well, this has to stop happening. So I made them actually change the password on the router. It didn't show that he had downloaded any more movies illegally, but I still had them change the password. So I gave the new password to the one tenant, and the other guy who was using it illegally, I never gave him the new password. So I don't know what he's doing for internet now, but I really don't care because
he got a big timeout on the Wi-Fi.
And he hasn't said a word about it.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Okay, so it's so funny that you bring this up because I also hate Mediacom, and I will tell anybody that. Unfortunately, where I'm at, there's only 2 different providers, and I am going to eventually switch over to the other provider, and I've let Mediacom know that many times. So every time I go to set up a router or Wi-Fi, because I have 12 midterm rentals, it's always a complete shit show. And this last time they told me that I couldn't do anymore because I needed a commercial account because everything is in my name. And I was like, okay, so 7 Wi-Fi's in, you're going to tell me that? Great. And they said, that's what they cited as their reasoning. They're like, if one tenant is doing something illegal, it could shut down all of your accounts. So I'm surprised that all your Wi-Fi's, all your routers didn't get dinged because that's like probably 2 months ago, some guy told me that. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I never thought of that. Like
I never in a million years would I have thought this would have been an issue because we talk all the time about how awesome our traveling nurse tenants are and like they're amazing, and quite frankly in the grand scheme of things not that big of a deal, but like in the moment it is. And they said the same thing to me. They said that I should move into a commercial account because of this, but I looked into the commercial and it's literally expensive. 3 times as much.
Nope. See, that I knew. I didn't even need to look. I knew. I was like, I'm not doing that. Oh, that's so annoying. Also, like one thing, if we're on the topic of Wi-Fi that I'm gonna do that's been on the back burner because it's not super high priority is printing out a little note on all the routers that say, hey, your Wi-Fi is this unit and this unit and this unit's Wi-Fi. Do not unplug, do not blah, blah, blah. And then putting in all the other units who don't have the router, putting a note that says your router is in 2438. If you have an issue, talk to them first. Because most of the time it's because they unplugged it or they just need to reset it. So you don't need to message me. I hate monkey in the middle. Yes, I hate monkey in the middle. The other day I had somebody calling me about being locked out of a 4 unit. And I was like, did you knock? Like there's 3 other people in there. Just knock. Like I was so annoyed. And it was just because they were not like the handle was sticking and it was a keypad and they needed to kind of pull it. And I was just gosh, like,
that's so frustrating.
Annoyed. But I've gotten that a couple times, and every time I get it, I give it 5 to 10 minutes before I reply. And 90% of the time, I get a text that says, just kidding, got it.
Exactly. And Grace and I both self-manage over 50 doors between the 2 of us. So we deal with tenants day in and day out. And yeah, we're complaining here, but like, really, in the grand scheme of things, we don't have to deal with that many issues, and we save a lot of money by self-managing. However, Grace is hiring an in-house property manager, which is super duper exciting, but she's still saving quite a bit of money by hiring in-house and hiring out of house and still maintain some level of control. But we're both really, really passionate about self-managing our properties. So passionate that we actually created a course, Property Management Academy. And so if you want to check that out, it's on our website, womeninvestinrealestate.com/PMA. So highly recommend checking that out if you want to take on property management yourself.
Or even if you're just at your first door and you're like, how do I do this? I think it's all of our lessons learned as we started with like no knowledge. But yeah, I guess that is what I want to talk about today. I'm so excited to be hiring somebody. The last probably 6 months, I've gone back and forth of, do I make enough money to hire somebody? Do I want to hire somebody? Who is it going to be? And like probably about a month ago, I was like, I'm all in. This has got to happen. And like all that doubt went away like overnight. I don't know why. I just like finally I like made up my mind and I'm so excited about it. So I have the person identified. They verbally accepted. They start in like 2 weeks. So now I've got to learn like how to be a freaking boss and in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Getting my payroll set up, getting time tracking set up, signing contracts for the job description and the hours and all of that. So like it's been a huge learning process, which that piece I'm still figuring out. But in general, I'm super excited. In the PMA course, I actually go over like how much money I'm saving, and I'm probably going to get like double the effort for what I'm spending. So I'm super, super, super excited. And I was telling this person that like right now, having 20 properties, if they were long-term rental, I could manage 20 so easily. Like literally maybe 2-3 hours a month. Like long-term rental tenants typically don't really ever bother you. I have a tenant who I haven't heard from in literally a year and a half.
Same. In my single families. Is yours in a single family or?
It's in a duplex, but it's a
Okay.
side by side. And she
Yeah.
was inherited, and so she was already settled in, like nothing.
I haven't heard about this lady, and it's probably because
Yeah, you've never even heard me
I
mention
know.
her
I'm like,
because
who is this?
yeah, you have that's so funny. Like, all my tenants. But with 12 midterm rentals, it does get a little bit more messy because you're placing tenants a lot and you have the added aspect of keeping up with the minimal supplies and furniture that you have and just more cleanings. So that I would say within midterm rental, I spend the most amount of time checking Furnish Finder and placing tenants. And so I was telling my PM that I'm hiring, an internal PM, keep in mind, I'm not going and hiring a company and giving them a 1099 to manage all my properties. I am hiring an individual person as a W-2 employee and I'm training them. I'm paying for the software. I'm controlling his hours and all of that good stuff. I was telling them right now I'm in a reactive stage. I react as requests come in and as maintenance requests come in, and I'm looking to move into the proactive business stage with you. And that's what I need help with. Like I said, a proactive thing would be the Wi-Fi signs. A proactive thing would be a checklist for my cleaners of exactly what happens if this happens. If you discover a hole in the drywall, this is what you do, instead of just waiting for the text and deciding in that moment what to do. So I'm super excited. I feel like it's a new phase of my business, and I've spent like right before this, I was just moving all my move in and move outs into Hospitable, which is a new software I'm paying for. I don't know, what is it, $25 a month?
It's $25 a
Yeah.
month. Or I mean, maybe a little more depending on the number of units you have, but worth it.
Yeah, so worth it because it shows me a calendar of all my move outs, which I love. And then it also auto sends all of my cleanings. So I don't have to be texting my cleaner or even making my own events for her, because it started where I would text her. Then it moved to I would make a Google invite and just put all that information. And now it's on Hospitable, so I don't have to do a thing. I just have to add. It's amazing.
It's almost like worth considering moving the long-term tenants onto Hospitable as well, because then you could even send out automated messages like reminder to change the air filter if
I didn't think of that.
Or like, hey, your lease is up in 60 days, do you want to renew, like so then you can set it and forget it and it just sends out those messages.
That's super smart. For my midterm rentals who book directly with me through Tenant Cloud, I turned off all the auto messaging because otherwise I'm messaging them on Tenant Cloud and then they're also getting emails. If they're on Airbnb, then yeah, there's auto messaging that goes through Airbnb. But I might just onboard my long-term rentals for, if anything, just to have the calendar view. Like that is so worth it. Like I right now have 4 properties that I want to get in Hospitable, and the workaround is you have to make an maybe this isn't true, but right now I have to make it an Airbnb listing to then connect to Hospitable. So what I do with those is I just either make like the minimum booking 3 months or a year if it's long term.
There's a workaround. You can add a manual listing that doesn't come from Airbnb. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But what I do for my midterm rentals is in the back of my mind. I have all those on Airbnb as like a backup, like in case I have a weird booking gap or I can't find tenants. So I've uploaded all of those except for like 3 or 4 I have still yet to do. And then I just make the listing minimum stay 3 months. So I have everything on Airbnb if needed and it goes to Hospitable, but I don't necessarily use Airbnb as my first line of finding a tenant, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I'm all jazzed up about Hospitable, and they reposted me today on their story. I was like,
they did? You're famous.
I am famous.
Oh my God.
Hospitable reposted me.
I know her.
That's so funny.
Oh, that is good. Well, I have another thing to share. In our very first ever behind the scenes episode, I was under contract on a seller finance triplex. We actually closed last week and now the fun begins. The first thing that yeah. So the first thing we're going to do is replace the roof, which is, believe it or not, going to cost $22,000 for the roof. Yes, because there's 3 layers of asphalt shingle and 1 layer of the original wood shake shingles. So they have to tear all that off and then put new. And then we're having the gutters replaced as well. And that's another $4,000. So that's $26,000 right off the bat. And if you're wondering how we're financing this, we're financing the entire thing through a line of credit. And the plan is to BRRRR into a commercial loan when we're finished with the rehab. We did find a couple of fun surprises. One really fun surprise, is at least one of the units still has knob and tube electrical, which isn't inherently bad if it's in good condition. And this is, but I think we're still, since some of the walls are already opened up, we're going to have it replaced anyway.
Oh, you're saying it is in good condition?
Yeah, it's in good condition.
But you're still going to replace.
Yes. So we're probably still going to replace, because why not right now? I'm thinking the other 2 units have been updated though, but this one unit specifically, I don't think anyone literally ever lived there when he owned it. He just used it as a storage unit. And another amazing surprise. This was actually a really good surprise. He did leave some materials. He cleaned out everything. And it was full. He was basically using it as a storage unit. He cleaned out the whole basement. It was jam-packed. He cleaned out the one unit that was a storage unit. He even swept the basement. So I was like, that's amazing, because a lot of times when I buy a property as is, like, I'll just say you can like leave whatever you want. I'll take care of it because I'm getting such a good deal on it.
Right.
But he cleaned it. So that's just so nice. And the last little surprise was under the carpet, the brown shag carpet in one of the units was immaculate wood floors.
Oh.
So excited about that, because I don't have to lay luxury vinyl plank, which will be really nice. And it'll actually be my first time ever refinishing hardwood floors. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
We're going to turn one of the units into a short-term rental, which is also going to be super fun. But
yeah, tell me more about that, because this is in a smaller market. So how did you come to that decision?
It's in a super small market, and I partnered on this deal with my parents and my mom. I had been throwing the idea around, like, we need to convert one of our units into a short-term rental. Like, there's only one other one in town and it does well. There's enough people coming into town that this could definitely bring in more money than what a long-term rental would. And so then she texted me one day and was like, hey, I think we should turn that unit into an Airbnb. I said, oh, I wonder who gave you that idea.
That's so funny.
Because I had mentioned it like a month prior and she was totally against it. And now all of a sudden she's gung-ho for it. That's going to be really fun. And like I mentioned in our WIIRE community, I posted about it because I was trying to get some ideas for like a vintage modern look. But it's on the first floor, which is really, really nice because it's easy to move furniture into. And if the Airbnb doesn't work out, it's easy to move that furniture back out. So it's like pretty low risk. It's just a 1-bedroom. So it's not going to cost us like an arm and a leg to furnish it and try it out.
Well, and you can do midterm rental on it as a backup.
Exactly. So
that's so exciting. That's the thing about Airbnb and midterm rental is, especially with short-term rental, people think that you have to have this amazing property in the mountains or on the beach, when in reality, it's either that, like there's in my head, and I'm not a short-term rental expert, there's 2 ways to do it. There's that, to be the best of the best, or to be the only. And that's what you and I do, is we're the onlys for our midterm rentals and for this short-term rental. And so you don't have to spend an arm and a leg, and you don't have to have it be some premier location. It just needs to be, like I always say, cute, comfy, and cozy. And
exactly.
Wait, one more thing about this. I just found out about this hospital in a rural area that a lot of my tenants are driving 30 minutes to. and this town is like smaller than Sheraton. It's probably 5,000 people. I'm like, I'm going to buy a freaking house there for $40K or $50K because I'm going to be the only person who provides a furnished rental, because I've had so many requests and so many people say they drive to that hospital. It's literally 30 minutes away. And I'm like, okay, so I should do that.
Yes.
I'm the only.
I think so many people don't realize how lucrative rural investing can be. But I just posted on my Instagram story last night. I get messages weekly.
Yeah, I just saw that.
About people reaching out to me about housing if I have anything available, because I have good products. I probably have the best products in terms of housing in this small town. So people want to live at my properties.
Right.
I
would trust
love
you and they like you.
Yeah, they trust me. They like me. I have a good reputation. My properties are nice. Like, I would love to never have to post on Facebook again advertising a rental, which is a real possibility in that town at this point. So
one thing I think I'm going to do, because I get people who reach out, not as much as you because I'm in a lot bigger of an area, but especially for my MTR tenants, because I'm super cheap and I have like 4 midterm rentals that are identical as 1-1s and 4 that are identical as 2-1s, but I only listed 1 of each. So I have to do the whole, well, this isn't available, but this one is at this date. So on Tenant Cloud, you can have like a personal website where you can have all your listings and their move-in dates. So I think I'm going to get all those up to date. And that's just the link I send to anybody and everybody, whether it's a furnished finder person, somebody on Airbnb, because I get people on Airbnb who request for random dates or blocked dates and then say, do you have anything else? And, those word of mouth things where people text me and I can just say, here's the link to all my openings. And it just eliminates all of that back and forth.
Does Tenant Cloud, do you have photos on there then too, so they can see what the unit looks like?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's really nice.
And I'm pretty sure Tenant Cloud, you can make your listing there and push it out to Zillow and all that other stuff. So I make my listings. Actually, I take that back. I list honestly like only on Facebook because I like to see who's inquiring.
Creep them a little bit.
Yeah. But Tenant Cloud makes it very easy to make a listing. So that's another thing that's like more of a proactive thing that I'm gonna get to. I'm not gonna do it tomorrow or next week, but check back with me in a couple months. I'm gonna get that up and running. But that'd be a good idea for you because you just send the link.
Oh, for sure. I'm like, my gears are turning, baby. And Grace and I are talking a lot about midterm rentals, which are like generally 3-month furnished stays. A lot of time people think of them as travel nurse housing. If you're looking to get started in midterm rentals, we have a free guide to get started. It's womeninvestinrealestate.com/MTR guide, and highly recommend downloading that and checking that out. I have some really good news actually that I want to share about my midterm tenants, because I shared some bad news at the beginning, but I just had one extend for 3 more months. So he'll be there for 6 months total, which I'm like, see, people have this misconception about midterm rentals that they're so much more work than long-term, but it's like, he's going to be there for 6 months. That's a long-term tenant right there. And then another one of my tenants is extending for 2 more months. So he'll be there for exciting. 5 months. I have a lot of guy MTRs right now, which we talk about, we mostly have women, but
yeah. I was just at my 8 unit yesterday and I saw that somebody had decorated like the front steps, which was so cute. There was a little gnome and some flowers. And I was like, wait, that's adorable. And I was just thinking like, wow, I think I have 8 women in my MTRs and 2 or 3 men, but they're all couples. So it's like, if it's a chick, it's with they're married. It's a guy and a girl that are married. Like I have very few solo men.
Mine are all solo men right now.
Yeah, I feel like you get a different industry though. You get like a lot of like trades people. I don't feel like I really get that. I really do get a lot of like the nurses. You've gotten wind turbines, electricians, engineers, like
Starbucks trainer, right? Training. It's like so random, but yeah. Now 4 of them are nurses right now, and 1 is the Starbucks manager. So
yeah. And also at my 8 unit, this is so small and silly, but for me it was like a huge win. I could not remember the code to get in the main entrance, and I was like, oh my god, that is like actually a really good feeling, because for 7 months I've been there almost every day. And I would never have forgotten the code. Like I knew all those codes off the top of my head because I was in and out, in and out. I had to like go pull up my phone and figure out the code. And I was like, oh my God, it feels good to not be so much in the business doing stuff. But back to what you're saying about your tenants extending, I'm going to go through all my tenants because I only had my first midterm rental less than a year ago and do the data of like how many have canceled, because I have had a couple, maybe 3 canceled. How many have extended? What's my average stay? How many have I hosted? Because I think that'd be really interesting.
I love looking at data like that, especially because we're so deep in the MTR space. The one tenant who is extending for 2 more months, I have literally not heard from him one time since he moved in. I'm like, yes, you can extend 2 more months. Absolutely. No problem. Like, they're just the best tenants. Like, they are professional tenants is what I like to say. They're used to traveling and being on the road. So
that's awesome.
You got any other news that you would like to share?
I think that's it. I'm just working on that property manager, moving into a new phase, and it's super exciting. So I'll have to share more as that progresses.
Yeah. Next behind the scenes episode, he'll have been onboarded for about a month. So we'll have to check back in then.
Yeah. And one last thing, he's starting like 2 days before Brant and I go on a sailing trip. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't have any move-ins or anything. So it's literally, he'll just have to like monitor that nothing catches on fire while we're gone. But so that'll be interesting. Yeah. I can't wait to update.
Ooh, there would never be a better saying than trial by fire for that, if that actually happens.
Oh my God. Don't
did I jinx it? Okay, well, that is going to be all for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are looking to find Grace and I outside of the podcast, we're both very active on Instagram. My Instagram is Amelia Jo REI, and Grace's is grace.investing. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you loved today's episode, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to check us out and join our community at womeninvestinrealestate.com and follow us on Instagram at WIIRE with 2 eyes.community.